If you're a queer woman who grew up watching TV, then you probably had to become some sort of expert in reading between the lines, because for years that is all that we had. And we learned to find ourselves in coded language and longing looks and intense friendships and all of that, because television couldn't bring itself to name a relationship that was romantic. So, I'm here to talk about 5 groundbreaking moments that framed relationships as romantic. I have already made a video, which I will put on the screen here, naming 5 groundbreaking moments in television history for queer women. Today is a continuation of that. 5 more groundbreaking moments that have changed entire generations of women. So let's start. We'll turn the clock all the way back to 1974. In Britain, the television landscape was a very different world. In a deeply homophobic environment, queer lives were almost never shown on screen. And then came a half-hour television play on BBC Two called Girl, and it told the story of Jackie, a young army recruit, having an affair with a superior officer named Harvey. This wasn't just a hint, this was an explicit love story between two women, showing them sharing intimate moments and even in bed together. And then it showed them kiss. And this has been widely reported as the first lesbian kiss on British television. And it's the moment that was so controversial, the BBC had to air it in a special announcement alongside of it from the network controller, essentially warning people basically about the content itself. And the play's director, Peter Gill, insisted that it wasn't some sensational stunt, that it was just a love story. But for the world at the time watching, it was revolutionary. It was a crack in the wall of silence. So while the broadcast was met with controversy, for many people it was a lifeline, because that was the first time a major television network in a small but powerful way acknowledged a love story between two women was worthy of being told. So now we're going to jump forward a couple of decades and we're going to go to the US, across the pond, to the final frontier, because in 1995 Star Trek was a global phenomenon. It still is, but it really was then. And it was known for tackling social issues through a sci-fi lens. However, when it came to queer representation, the franchise had been hesitant with that. However, it all changed when the 4th season of Deep Space Nine aired an episode titled Rejoined. This episode centers on Jadzia Dax, a member of the Trill species. Trills are a joined species with a humanoid host carrying a symbiote that holds memories from all of its past hosts. A powerful taboo in Trill society forbids them from reassociating or rekindling old relationships. And so, in Rejoined, Jadzia is reunited with Lunara Khan, whose symbiote was married to one of Dax's previous male hosts. So the old feelings come back almost instantly, and the entire episode is a beautifully crafted story about forbidden love, but the writers were making a bigger point. The Trill taboo was a clear allegory for homophobia. As writer Ronald D. Moore explained, no matter the sci-fi explanation, what the audience saw was the reality of two women in love, and the story culminates in a passionate, heartfelt kiss. While it's not the absolute first same-sex kiss on American TV, because we did have LA Law, etc. before, It was, however, a monumental moment for a major franchise such as Star Trek, and it generated a record volume of viewer feedback. It took that whole love story and it made it that society wasn't treating it as such a taboo thing. It gave it seriousness. Now, sometimes the most powerful recognition doesn't come from a single kiss, but from the slow, undeniable burn of a love story. And there's no story better than the story of Xena and Gabrielle from Xena Warrior Princess. That show was a cultural phenomenon in the late 90s, and at its heart, it was an intensely deep and loving bond between two female leads. And from the very beginning of that show, their relationship was laid with an intimacy that went far beyond just friends. And for 6 whole seasons, queer women watched as the line between platonic and romantic blurred into just non-existence. This was a masterclass in subtext. They had longing stares, life-saving embraces, confessions whispered to each other. It was like all there for anyone that was willing to open their eyes to see it, and an entire generation of fans saw that. The cast and crew knew what they were doing with this. The producer, Rob Tappert, famously called the relationship whatever you want it to be. And Lucy Lawless, who played Xena, simply called it a love story between two people. However, network censorship meant that the relationship couldn't be as explicit as a straight one. Now, the show never gave us a definitive, unambiguous romantic kiss in the way mainstream drama might. But for fans, moments like the mouth-to-mouth soul transfer in The Quest or the water sharing scene in the finale served the same purpose. They confirmed everything fans had felt for years, and Xena and Gabrielle taught an entire generation that love doesn't need a label to be real. Now, these moments meant so much because they made us feel seen. They were glimmers of hope in a media landscape that so often pretended that we didn't exist. But these are just a few examples. What was the TV moment that first made you feel recognised? Let me know in the comments because I'd love to hear about that. Now, one-off kisses were historic, but the holy grail was always a sustained, complex relationship at the centre of a show. The UK prison drama Bad Girls delivered exactly that. It started in 1999 and the series was gritty and unflinching, but it was also groundbreaking for making a lesbian love affair the heart of its narrative. The story revolved around the impossible romance between Helen Stewart, the new wing governor, and Nikki Wade, a sharp, outspoken inmate serving a life sentence. Theirs was not a simple sanitized romance, it was messy, emotionally charged, and deeply compelling, and it spanned 3 seasons. It was a roller coaster of forbidden love, professional ethics, prison riots, and a dramatic escape. What made Helen and Nikki so significant was their staying power. This wasn't a very special episode, no, it was a primary season-spanning storyline. The show portrayed Helen's struggle with her sexuality, with honesty and nuance, as she finally realised her true love for Nikki. And their relationship, it was real. There were passionate kisses that were central to their journey, but it was more than that. There were arguments, breakups, but ultimately there was a happy ending. After Nikki wins her appeal, Helen chooses a life with her. And in TV landscape littered with tragic endings for queer characters, bury your gays, Bad Girls gave its central lesbian couple a hopeful future, proving that a UK primetime drama could build an emotional core around a queer romance. Right, so for the last one, and by no means least, I want to go back to America and daytime television. In the year 2000, the soap opera All My Children broke new ground. One of its legacy characters, Bianca Montgomery, came out as a lesbian, and that alone was a landmark storyline. For years, the love of her life was defined by heartbreak. That is until Lena, a sassy artist, arrived in the town. The chemistry between Bianca and Lena was immediate, and in true soap opera fashion, their dynamic story led to the classic airport confrontation. And in April 2003, Bianca poured her heart out, begging Lena to stay. The scene ended with a passionate kiss that made history. While not the very first same-sex kiss on daytime TV globally, it is widely cited as the first romantic ongoing kiss between two women in an American soap opera, and its impact was enormous. The significance of this cannot be overstated. Daytime TV reached millions of homes every single day, normalizing relationships in a way that primetime specials simply couldn't. It wasn't an allegory or subtext, it was a love story, plain and simple, playing out in mainstream America. The actresses even appeared on The View to discuss the storyline itself. The kiss shattered a long-standing taboo in one of television's most traditional formats and paved the way for more queer relationships in daytime TV. This journey to visibility, well, it's a long one, but each of these examples, each of these moments, and so many others like it, did more than just break the rules. They broke the silence. These were the moments of public confirmation of a private truth that so many queer women already knew. That our love was real, our stories mattered, and that we deserved to see ourselves on screen. And so there's 5 more historic moments that changed TV history. If you like the video, you know what to do. I would really appreciate it if you hit subscribe to see more. Remember to hit the bell, all of that. Take care. Until next time, bye bye.